I've been describing what I think of as an integral or a postmodern perspective, where it's not either or, either the material world or the spiritual world, or mind versus body, or God versus man. These opposites. When I see an opposite in life, it's a red flag, an automatic red flag to think for neither one's going to win. But what's the integral or integrated or transcendent perspective on these opposites? So the same thing in the big picture in terms of the spiritual world and the scientific world. I don't think of those as opposites. I think of there being one thing, and the one thing is a broader thing that's broad enough to accommodate both the material, scientific, mechanistic world and the sort of incommensurate spiritual world that we idealize in some supernatural way. And I view neither. I view the spirituality as being a natural thing, as natural as breathing, and I view science as being quite magical. If you look at quantum mechanics and relativity and cosmology, and spontaneous remission and stigmata and the charisms of the saints. There's so much in science that's documentable human behavior that's non-Newtonian, counterintuitive. People talk about the subatomic world of quantum mechanics as being bizarre and counterintuitive, and the macroscopic world of cosmology and relativity as being bizarre and counterintuitive. But somehow in the middle, in the human realms, it's all Newtonian. It's straightforward and mechanistic. Yet you take Eastern philosophies, and you think of that perspective in the middle realm, and you realize that it's all counterintuitive. It's all like quantum mechanics, all the way up and down. So anyway, when you look at it, that's at the action of psychedelics, when you try to say, well, what's the action of psychedelics then? From this perspective, this sort of holistic perspective, where it's neither science nor spirituality, understandably then I don't come down on either one of those sides. There tends to be a bit of a sort of debate between the scientists and the mystics. I want to rationalize mysticism and expand the realm of science. So the action of psychedelics then becomes a whole process. Yes, of course, it's a chemical, and the chemical acts in your brain and creates certain neurochemical effects. But to me, that's just the sort of substrate or the foundation, for what I think of as like an emergent property. If you think about the way the physical world works, if you think about it as simple molecules billions of years ago, not molecules, but subatomic particles billions of years ago, and it seems to have gained in complexity, through atoms to molecules to life itself, over this period of time. And to me, that complexity, there's something called an emergent property, something that just naturally flows or is a result of each of these levels of complexity. We call it intelligence. We call it spirituality. So, with these advanced chemicals, these complicated chemicals, complex chemicals, then it would be natural that there'd be both the physical expression of it and what we think of as the spiritual expression of it. So I incorporate both into this broader worldview. And I think of the chemical as interacting on my physical body, and that the sort of gestalt aspects, let's call them, to sort of ground it in science. We think of them as spirituality, but let's call it the gestalt aspects, the emergent aspects of the molecule is, interacting in some way with the gestalt or emergent property of me as an organism in my broader field. I see nothing spiritual or supernatural about that. That's, consistent with contemporary science. So, what's the action? Is it a spiritual? Is it a visionary plant? Is it a sacrament on the one hand, or is it a serotonin influenced neurotransmitter? Yes, it's all one thing. And so that's the way I see the action.